This is the EBR 1190 SX. As I speak to you now, this is the most powerful naked motorcycle you can buy. The BMW K1300 makes 175 horsepower, the Suzuki B King makes 181, but those are both lardy barges next to the tiny 1190 SX, which makes 185 brake horsepower. That's just rude. This is going to be a short video because we've already reviewed the 1190 RX Superbike, and the SX Streetfighter is just about as close to its race bike brother as it's possible to be. It's a superbike in disguise. Forget your detuned for mid-range naked bike engine, Eric Buell has decided to give you the full banana. In fact, because it's got less plastic on it, the SX is about 2 kilos lighter than the RX. That gives it a slightly better power to weight ratio, which I might be able to enjoy if I laid off the pies for a bit. On the open road, I hardly need to tell you this thing absolutely flies. The Showa suspension, which includes the very trendy big piston forks, give you an outstanding ride and respond really well to tweaking. The riding position is aggressive but comfortable. The single rim-mounted brake disc doesn't have the cooling noodles off the RX, but it still delivers awesome stopping power that frequently gets the back wheel kind of hovering off the ground as you come into turns. The engine is absolutely explosive. It just hammers you out of the corners with eye-popping elemental force. Exit a slowish corner at about 80 in second, and you can just flick the clutch and ride a giant wheelie to your next braking point. It's a monster. But, and this is a big but, a lot of the stuff you can forgive on the RX because it's a race bike becomes really frustrating on the SX. On the street, as much as it pains me to say it, sometimes you need to go slow. The SX hates going slow. It goes against EBR's religion. It's geared for the racetrack, so it coughs and gasps and splutters and stalls at low revs, and the clutch needs a lot of muscle. It runs hot when you're stuck in traffic, and the bars and mirrors are too wide for quick lane splitting, probably because you're not allowed to go lane splitting over in Wisconsin where they build these things. In short, it's a grumpy commuter. It's just as unhappy as you are about going to work and struggling through traffic on a Monday morning. It also burns a couple more litres of fuel per hour than the RX, whether that's because of the wicked aftermarket exhaust on our test bike or because of the lack of fairings. So, I'm a bit conflicted about this bike. On one hand, I like the idea of having a street fighter with the full, uncensored, raging power of a superbike, but on the other hand, I can't take my mind off how much crazier the BMW S1000R became when it got retuned for the road. And most of the SX's 25 horsepower advantage over the BMW is simply out of reach on the road because it's geared too high. Still, you can always get a rear sprocket the size of a pizza tray and stick that on the back wheel, and that's something I wish I had time to try. So, you've heard of race bikes that make very few compromises for the road? Well, this is a road bike that makes very few compromises for the road. It's an exotic machine with very little patience and a hot temper, but it sings like a bird released when you take it outside the city limits and let it do what it does best. Let's call it character, shall we?